So you learned some painful lessons.
Painful.
So one thing you touched on a moment ago is that we all hear about all the amazing things about owning an apartment complex, but no one talks about the challenges. So you already shared one, right?
Yep.
Prostitution ring.
Yep.
What are some other nightmares?
I've nicknamed it the Uggs. Okay.
Let's talk about the Uggs.
Bugs, thugs, and drugs. Those are the three.
Bugs,
drugs, and thugs.
Bugs, drugs, and thugs.
Yep.
All right.
And bed bugs. I know nobody wants to hear about those, but that's a very real thing. And this is so much different from what I do now. I mean, now my business is way different, but starting out, I mean, I was doing everything, trying to figure all this out. When you get bed bugs in one unit, they spread real quick, and it's expensive to get rid of them. It could be $3,000-$4,000 if you don't know what you're doing, and you hire somebody to heat the entire building up with these big, fans essentially to pump hot air in to hopefully treat and kill the bed bugs. But you have to do all the units. You can't just do one unit. So if you've got an apartment building, yeah, it's great because everything's under one roof and you get the scalability, but it's a double-edged sword because now one problem in one unit or one unruly tenant in one unit, now you're disrupting all the tenants in the building. Right. So that's
how many times have you gone through bed bugs remediation?
I'm sure I've spent probably $50,000 on bed bugs over the course of my career, at least. And that was probably a gift. It could have been more.
Yeah. All right. So bed bugs.
Yep.
Drugs.
Yep. So, I mean, just you walk in, what looks amazing on paper, high caps, everything like that. When you get in the thick of it, you're like, oh my gosh, like, wow, all these expenses are massive. You got, people, doing meth in your units, and you've got, people beating each other, into submission inside your common hallways and literally stealing your coin laundry machines out of your building. Yeah. Cutting your camera cords. I mean, I've seen it all.
You can go wireless.
Well, yeah, true. Yeah. They'll probably take the cameras. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. The third one was drugs.
Yeah. So with the drugs, you've got, once you get one unit that's got usually it's meth going on, you sort of have this revolving door where there's like people coming in and out all the time. And then all of a sudden your common areas start getting, really disgusting. Your other tenants start wanting to leave. You've got a lot of police calls, and there's something called a nuisance abatement. When you get too many police calls on a unit, they will sometimes condemn your building, even though it's not your fault. And I've seen that happen before. It hasn't happened to me. I got close a couple times in the early years. But yeah, if you do have too many police calls at a unit, the government says, hey, this unit is a problem. And so for some reason, we're getting all these police calls. It needs to stop. And if it doesn't stop, they'll condemn the building. So
any interesting stories?
As far as
the drugs,
walking into units after we've booted somebody out and finding like a whole, gang of needles, just finding all kinds of paraphernalia and things. It was a little shocking to me the first few times.
Yeah. All right. So those are things to learn that you learned.
Yeah.
It's not all rainbows and unicorns when you own apartment complexes.
Nope. You can still make a lot of money. You just have to know those things going in that. Look, everything that you hear, all these positive stories, because nobody wants to talk about the negatives. I'll talk about the negatives all day long, because I want to shine a light on all sides of it.
So what could someone do, right? They're listening to this podcast and like, oh man, I want to buy an apartment complex.
Yeah.
What could they do to prevent, maybe not the bed bug situation, but the chainsaw situation and the meth situation? What could they do to prevent that?
I hate to say this, but sometimes you're not going to get a Class A tenant in a Class C neighborhood. It's not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So I would say you need to start with a good neighborhood first. If you've never done any investing, try to go into a place that's a little more turnkey, a little bit more of a nice neighborhood that you could see yourself living in. You're going to automatically attract the better tenants, and you're not going to have to be forced to choose between a bad tenant and a worse tenant. So I would say that's a good stepping stone for that.
But the exchange for that is the cap rate and the cash flow.
Yep, it can be. It can.